Hello everyone, I've just returned after a little Christmas break. The winter flu seemed to have got me, but I'm back and I'm glad to say my sense of smell has returned as well. So I'm back to reviewing aromatherapy oils on a regular Scent Saturday, and I'm also very happy to say Santa Claus was very kind to me and brought me lots of different aromatherapy oils. So today I'm going to be reviewing some oils that I'm sure we've all heard about, but perhaps like me, you've never really thought about how they smell individually, because these oils are always mixed with other things, and those are frankincense and myrrh. But in this case, Nikura, the brand that I bought these from, have two different varieties of frankincense, and I thought this would be a really good opportunity to review the difference. Now, what I'm going to do is start with probably the more familiar one, which is Frankincense Maydi. I'll try to get a better picture of that in a minute, but this is the more resinous oil. I believe that it's taken from the bark of the plant, and because it's a resin, it's a lot thicker, and perhaps, I say perhaps, I've actually smelled these oils previously, it's a very different smell. So quite surprisingly, I don't think you would even think they're from the same plant. They're very, very different. But let's try this Frankincense Maydi and get a bit of a review of it. So this is definitely a scent you probably would have smelt if you've ever been to a church or cathedral, because it's always used there, and it's a little bit perhaps like almost like a cough mixture. It's quite a medicinal smell. I've got to say I have mixed feelings about it, but because the smell out of the bottle is a bit like cough mixture and compost almost, which are two things you probably wouldn't associate with being that nice. But I have tried this in a diffuser, and I know it's quite different, so I'll definitely stay tuned to see that bit. So yes, it's probably got a slight sweetness of honey in the background as well, and perhaps a little bit of a almost, I want to say greenery, like I've really got to find a better word for this, but it's like the other frankincense oil that I'm going to review in a second, that it's got almost like the smell of cut stems from a flower. So yeah, it's a slight sort of bitterness, almost like aniseed perhaps, but overall it's an interesting scent, because I know it works incredibly well with other oils, and for this reason I'm probably going to use it for some blends in the future. But as I say, it's definitely different out of the bottle, so be sure to watch that. Okay, now let's compare this to the other frankincense, and this one is the Serata, and this one I believe comes from the flowers, or no, sorry, the leaves and the stems of the plant. So straight away it's completely different. It actually reminds me more of like horseradish, I would say. So it's quite biting. It's almost slightly bitter, in fact. And I was thinking earlier what I would compare this to, and it just reminded me of when I was a kid and I was just going on walks with my family, and I'd be one of those probably slightly weird kids who would just collect all these sort of flowers, and by the end of the trip I'd always have like a bunch of random flowers like horseradish or whatever grasses I could find, and the smell of the stems and sort of pulling off the leaves and that sort of thing, it's like an amalgamation of that. That's kind of what this reminds me of. It's a bitterness and very sort of aniseed, again a very aniseed sort of smell. Perhaps I need to think more about this greenery. I keep using this word greenery because I'm just not sure what that smell is, but it's that sort of bitter smell you get from some stems of plants. That's what it is. And on its own, I would say you probably wouldn't associate that with the other frankincenses. Somewhat shares a note that's similar, but on its own, yeah, it's quite different. I'm not quite sure if there's anything else that really distinguishes this. It is very much that sort of cut stems. I'm going to have a look, because I did write some notes on this earlier, see if there's something else I can relate to. It turns out that's my full review of this. It's, again, very different in the diffuser. We are now moving on to myrrh, the last of the scents that you probably associate with Christmas, but wow, yeah, that's I really like this scent straight out the bottle. I really hope it's like this in the diffuser as well. It's almost like marzipan, I would say. It's that sort of slightly bitter but sweet almond sort of taste, smell. That's what it reminds me of, marzipan. And maybe slightly like cherries as well. Yeah. It's really that smell of Christmas to me. It's something else that reminds me of dark treacle or black treacle. Interestingly, where some of it spill out the bottle, you can probably see there. See if I can get the light on it. That's actually what it looks like. It's a very sort of warm and slightly chocolatey smell. Yeah, that's a favourite of mine straight away. It's something I really like. Now, I should mention as well that the myrrh comes in two varieties from Nikura. This one is actually their thick oil, and as far as I know, this is the resin that comes straight from the plant, and it's slightly of preference to me because in the end I'm trying to stay away from chemicals by going for essential oils. You know, if this was a fragrance oil, I probably wouldn't care as much, but when you go for a thinned oil, it has some sort of chemical additive, and for some people they have slight allergies to this. I bet I'd probably be one of those people, so I'm going to avoid that. So personally, I'd go for thick. However, if you're trying to use this in something like a nebulizer, I think it'd probably clog it because it's quite a thick oil. It's almost like sort of warmed up honey. It's slightly viscous. So for me, I would stick with the thick oil and go for an ultrasonic diffuser because that would be absolutely fine. Or potentially add some sort of carrier oil, because you can thin these with natural oils like almond oil, I believe. So there are options there. But yeah, out the bottle, really nice. I look forward to trying this in the diffuser as well. So let's give that a go. Of the three oils that I'm testing today, I'm going to start with the Serata. This is the frankincense oil that I believe comes from the leaves and the stems of the plant. It seems like a thinner oil. I've only sort of moved around the bottle, and for that reason it's going to be a little easier to pour. The other oils, they're more resinous, and I find with resinous thick oils it always gets stuck in the plastic cap, so I might have to have a little play around with those. So let's start with the Serata and pop this into my diffuser here. Now, from the bottle, as mentioned earlier, this is quite a fresh and sort of almost biting scent. It's one that, well, it does remind me of some sort of, I'm not quite sure, horseradish perhaps, some sort of stem of a flower that has a very sort of bitter, almost aniseed type scent to it. It's, I'm not quite sure how I feel about it just straight out the bottle. It's very fresh, probably would pair very well with another oil, but on its own, I'm not too sure. It does have some sort of resemblance to the other frankincense oil. You can notice that in the background, but it's mainly this sort of fresh stem of something like horseradish. It's definitely what I'm detecting. So let's try this out. Okay, I've got four drops of that one in there, so it should be interesting. It's quite a strong scent as well. I've got to say I'm very glad that my sense of smell has come back now, because over Christmas that was nowhere near as strong, and I think it's worth the wait for this video. Oh yeah, that's actually quite nice now. It's really nice. Wow, okay, yeah, that's completely different. It's really fresh, quite sort of invigorating, I guess you could say. It's less sort of bitter now, almost slightly sweet, in fact. It's I tell you what that reminds me of, and people might disagree with me. No, they would definitely disagree with me here. It reminds me of rhubarb and custard sweets, those sort of hard-boiled sweets. Maybe it's a very English thing, but rhubarb and custard is something I grew up on, and yeah, that's kind of what it reminds me of. It's that slightly sort of bitter sweetness, and yeah, just I'm trying to think now. These sort of crushed stems, things that I mentioned earlier about how it reminds me of sort of picking flowers, that actually is a little bit different now. In fact, it's only a sort of a minor component of that in the background. It's definitely more like a sweet shop. I feel like a lot of my analogies of the sweet shops, because it's been a big part of my youth, just almost every other day going down to the sweet shop and finding something new that I could try. So, rhubarb and custard. I like that one. Really like that one. I thought I would contrast this with the other frankincense, which is the Maydi, or the resinous oil. And yeah, it can be any more different if it tried. It's I think I likened it earlier to things like almost like compost, or some sort of very earthy scent, despite what it says about it being a spice, or in their spices category on Nakura. I disagree. It's earthy, maybe quite plant-like, with that sort of same bitterness that you get with the Serata. But of course, it reminds me of places of worship, because this is always used in churches, cathedrals, that sort of location. It's how should I say? It does remind me, perhaps going back to earlier, a little bit of sort of compost. Maybe it's quite earthy. It's slightly almost bitter as well. Some people really love this scent, but for me, not so much. So I'm very curious what it's like in the diffuser. Now, I'm going to try putting this in, and oh wow, okay, it came out absolutely fine that time. So I think Nakura, they've improved their bottles, because before I had issues with thicker oils. I was quite surprised by that. Excellent. Right, let's try this out. So I think that was probably about 5 drops that I just fired out there. And yeah, if that's their thick oil, then honestly, I wouldn't worry about their thinner oil, because you know, it's got some sort of chemical additive that you don't really need. That was absolutely fine. Anyway, let's try this out. I don't know why it surprises me every time that the diffuser is different, but yeah, every time it's completely new. It's really nice actually now. It's I almost feel bad for shooting down the oil in the bottle, because from first glance or first smell in the bottle, that wasn't very pleasant, but once it's diffused, it's almost rich and chocolatey, almost in some ways, like a bitter chocolate. Reminds me of maybe like chicory a little bit as well, that sort of slightly coffee smell, a little bit of aniseed in the background. And yeah, completely different from the other frankincense oil, I should say. Regardless of what it smells like in the bottle, it's still very different. You could probably still make the association of the two being related, like there's almost a sense of like fennel or some sort of aniseed in the background that definitely links the two. But no, I really like this one actually, and I know I said earlier in the video, but I think it would pair incredibly well with some other scents. The first that actually comes to my mind is one I've got here, which is tea tree, and I think something that's a little menthol and maybe clears the sinuses a bit, probably quite nice for an evening scent. So that's what I'm going to try out, tea tree and frankincense. I think that'd be quite nice. Okay, yeah, I'm convinced. I'm probably going to say this a million times, but don't ever go by just the bottle, because it's not a good way to tell how a scent is. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Now we have the last of the scents. This one is myrrh, and when I smelt this in the bottle, I've got to say I absolutely love this scent. It's got what I think is the two best components. It's an earthy and sort of fresh scent, or slightly sweet scent. That to me is the perfect blend of an oil. And yeah, I'm so glad my sense of smell has returned, because it's opened it up to be something so nice. This smells almost like black treacle. It's I think, is it muscovado sugar or muscovara sugar? It's a very dark, rich sugar that is almost slightly bitter and chocolatey, I would say, but very sweet. I used to love having dark treacle or black treacle. I think it's got multiple names, but black treacle on crumpets. I don't know if that's a very English thing to say, but yeah, black treacle on crumpets. That was a favourite when I was a kid. So yeah, it's kind of like a reminiscent thing. In fact, I think I'm probably going to go down to the shops now and get some black treacle. Lovely. Really like that one. Okay, so this is another thick oil, but just as I was surprised with the frankincense earlier, maybe it'll pour absolutely fine. So let's try it out. Okay, no, it does not. So yeah, that is a very thick oil. This is what I expected actually with the frankincense, is absolutely no movement. So I've got a little pry tool here. Let's get this plastic cap off. I've had to do this before with the benzoin oil as well, and as far as I'm concerned, it's the only way to really get the oil out. You can probably see there in the little cap, it's just completely blocked. And this is the reason why you shouldn't use a thick oil in a nebulizer as well, because you're going to ruin it, and or you're going to have to go for a lot of cleaning. Anyway, I'm going to try getting 2 or 3 drops in here. Okay, I just poured in a lot. I'm clearly not that careful. It's like the consistency of honey that's been warmed up. So it's thick, but not as thick as I thought. So now I've probably got about 2 millilitres of myrrh in there. I'm probably going to leave it on for the rest of the day now with that. But let's try this. If it smells anything like it was in the bottle, I would happily have this on all day. Interestingly, it's not as strong as I thought it would be. I mean, it's still incredibly nice. And this one is probably a lot closer to what the bottle is. So, again, it's got that sort of dark black treacle smell, that sweet bitterness that is really, really sort of, for me, calming and quite, wow, what's the word that makes you hungry? Almost salivating. I think that's probably one way I'd describe it. Oh yes, I really like that. I feel like there's a little bit more now to it that wasn't there in the bottle, but I can't quite pick it out. There's something else there in the background. I can't quite put my finger on it. It's I think that sort of slightly more chocolatey smell is coming through, like cocoa powder, perhaps. But no, there is something which sort of smells like fresh greens, almost like there's something like if you were to maybe like chop up kale, and you have that sort of slightly, I want to say the word astringent. I think something I've heard before that sounds sort of familiar. So it's almost slightly medicinal. It's like a medicinal herb. So I've been thinking about this for a little while now. There's something else in the background there that I couldn't quite put my finger on, but there is something that it reminds me of. And this is really niche, so I'd imagine only a few of you will know what I'm talking about here. But if you live in England and you've been to Portsmouth Harbour, they have all these old ships there. And there's this sort of smell on some of the ships, which I think is some sort of a wood preserver. It's something from the 1800s. It's not a chemical thing. I think it's made from like old sort of tar, or I think it might be some sort of tar that they put on the wood to preserve it. And it's a slight bit of that in the background. Slightly. It's mainly that treacle smell, but yeah, very interesting. And I think I'm going to be leaving this one on for the rest of the day because it's a really, really nice sort of grounding scent, something that just feels familiar to me. So yeah, I like this. I can see why they're so popular. I feel like I have a new appreciation for these scents because I've been brought up with frankincense and myrrh, especially, growing up in a Christian school. So, these scents have always been in the background. It's a big part of, the belief system here in the UK. You only have to walk past a church or a cathedral and you'll get these scents sort of floating around in the air. And as well as that, there are lots of oils that have frankincense and myrrh in the background. So, it's something I'm always been familiar with, but on their own, they're really interesting because out the bottle, frankincense is not something I particularly like, but once it's diffused, it's incredibly nice. I can see why it is mixed with other oils. Now the myrrh, that was great in every form, and it's, a favourite of mine right now. Incredibly nice, and makes me want to try black treacle again, because it's been many years since I had that. So I will say, I know it's always associated with, both scents are always associated with Christianity and therefore Christmas. But for me, Christmas has, always been a time for friends and family. So my association of frankincense and myrrh is one of positivity. It's not got any religious association to it. So that's my take on this one. And I'll be interested in hearing what other people feel about these scents as well. It also got me wondering, because I've always smelt frankincense and myrrh, but I've never put a name to it. are there other people out there who have only noticed something later in life? They've noticed a name for something they've been familiar with for so long, because I bet I'm not the only one there. So I want to make Scent Saturday more regular again. It was only those 3 weeks that I was away I didn't make any videos, but I'll be definitely back next week. And what I'm thinking is maybe comparing artificial and, well, essential oils, because I have things like lavender, both the artificial and the real one as well. So that'd be quite interesting. But in the end, I have, well, coming up about 70 oils now. So I've got plenty of choice. So be sure to subscribe. Please do like this video. It lets me know that I'm doing the right thing. And I'll be sure to catch you on the next one. I'll see you later. Bye.